Hi everyone, welcome to this video on this new customizable eye asset. So I'm going to show you how it works, how to use it, and the kind of things you can do with it. So first off, we have the shaders to customize. So we have 4 different materials, one for the external layer of the eye, which is transparent, one for the sclera, which is the white part of the eye, one for the pupil, and one for the iris, which is the colored part. So let's start off with the iris and how we can customize that. So first off, there's the color. So I made a main color, which is green in this case. So you can make, for example, brown eyes or blue eyes, like so. And a secondary color, which gives a sort of a secondary shade to use. In this case, we could go with purple or something that makes it look kind of supernatural, or if you want something more realistic, go with brown eyes, maybe with like a yellowish tint there. Something like that, maybe. So yeah, that allows you to customize a bunch of different things. And then we have the sclera. So those are the colors, but we also have the different parameters, such as the detail scale. So that's the detailing here on the iris. Choose the scale for that. If you want it to be a bit more coarse, just with fewer lines, you can make that 0.5, or if you want something very detailed, you could bring that up to 4. That has a lot more sort of details there, if you want a close-up shot or something. In general, I've kept it at 1.5, sort of a midpoint between those. There's also a seed for that detailing. In case you don't like this particular pattern, you can just change that up however you like. And the last feature you can customize is the strength of the normal map on the iris. So if you can see, there's some normal bumps here catching the light. If I set that to 0.5, that'll be way more noticeable. In case you want sort of that look, or if you don't like that, you can just set it to 0, and then it'll just be a smooth iris there. The second material you can customize is the sclera, so the white part, which has all these veins here. So by default, the veins are quite far away, but still visible. So you can customize their thickness, the coverage, so how far forward they go. So for the thickness, if you set it to like 0, it'll be just white. So you have just a white eyeball. If you set it to something like 1, they'll be very noticeable, and then if you set it to something like 2, then it's more of a bloodshot, injured eye sort of look. And then for the coverage, that determines how far forward they go. So if I set that to like -10, they barely go past this sort of middle of the eye. And then if I set it to something, so this is 0 by default, and if I set it to something like 0.9, then it'll almost cover the whole eye there. In case you want this sort of diseased kind of look. And then if I set it to 1, it'll just cover the whole eye with red, which is another look, I guess. So something else you can customize is the color of the white part. So by default, I made it a bit pink. So if you want it to just be white, fully white, set that to white. If you want it maybe like a again, like a diseased, infected sort of eye or something, you can make it a bit darker, more yellowish, like that. And yeah, so that's the white part. You can also customize the color of the veins, in case you want them to be, I don't know, maybe darker, like that. And also the subsurface scattering. So I've added a tiny bit of subsurface scattering there. You can set that to, yeah, to something else maybe to make it darker, or yeah, something like that. And again, this also has a random seed value for the veins. In case you don't like this particular pattern, you can just move that around until you find something that you like. Now, regarding the rig of the eyes, we have a couple important bones. So first off, we have this root bone, which just moves the whole rig around. So you should attach that to probably the head bone of the armature of your model, if you're adding this to an existing model. And then we also have this bone, which is the target. So the eyes will look at the target. We also have these specific targets for each eye, in case you want one eye to move one direction independently of the other. So that's nice. And I've also added this controller in the custom properties of the rig, in case you want you want them not to look at the individual targets, but at the center of the target, like that. This is important if your character is looking at something that's close to them, so they look kind of cross-eyed. It looks a bit more natural. So you can just choose either of those. And these bones, these individual targets, also work as controllers for the dilation of the pupils. So if you scale these, they will scale the pupil as well. That's also quite important to give a realistic sense to the eyes. So each of these controls each pupil, but also this center square controls the dilation of both pupils at the same time. And that is that is pretty much it for the rig. So that's all the controllers that you have. And yeah, so I'm just going to show you, for example, how we could make maybe like a demonic or a supernatural kind of eyeball for a creature or something. So first we can, a cool trick is that you can add a value to the color that's higher than 1. That gives it sort of a glowing kind of look. And so this looks kind of like a fiery, glowing iris. Kind of like Star Wars, I guess. And for the sclera, we could go with a darker color, just to make it look a bit more kind of demon-like, I guess. So go with something like that. And for the subsurface, again, something sort of blue. We want the veins to be very noticeable. And the coverage to also be quite high, like that. So yeah, that's a way you could use this asset to come up with maybe new kinds of eyes, I guess. Yeah, that is pretty much it. Hope you enjoy it, and